Hello, I'm Carol Higgins, and we're coming to you live today from the Baptist Health Newsroom. We're talking about a hot button topic today, which is vaping. With 7 vaping-related deaths totaled up now, there are a lot of concerns about what's going on out there. So we've brought together a couple of experts on this to answer your questions and give us the facts on e-cigarettes and just how much of a health risk they are. I'd like to welcome our guests this morning. First is Dr. Javier Perez Fernandez.
Oh, thank you.
And you're a pulmonologist.
Pulmonologist,
a hard word to pronounce, for me anyway, with Baptist Health. And then we also have Mickey Thompson, the Director of Pulmonary Services and Lung Health Center at South Miami Hospital. Thank you both. We have a lot to cover today, but before we dive in, I just want to remind our viewers to please send in questions and comments during our discussion today. You can do that very easily, and we want to make this interactive so that we hear from you and we can answer your questions. There'll be a Q&A at the end of the session. All right, so let's get started. Let's begin by addressing exactly what vaping is. There are many misconceptions. So Mickey, can you clarify what vaping is for us?
Vaping is, we call it different things. We call it the e-cig, cigarette, the liquid, the vape, the juju. There are different tops to it. But it's just putting in the liquid nicotine into this electronic component and inhaling it.
And that is, there are many names that, like you said. What are some of those names? And we've got a picture of what some of them look like. So if you've never seen them before, tell us about some of the different names it goes by.
We call it e-cig, we call it vape pens, we call it vapes. The teenagers call it juju, and there's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And no matter what they call it, Dr. Perez Fernandez, is vaping harmful to your lungs?
It is, and there's no question about it. And I think it's a very strong message that needs to be sent to the audience. And this is related to the fact that Mickey actually summarized that. All these elements contain nicotine. So they're addictive elements, and they will produce addiction to our customers, right? And tobacco companies are well known to be masking the results of the use of these products. They've done over 50 years, they've been hiding the effects of tobacco products to our patients, and now it's not going to be too much difference with these vaping products. So it's very important to realize that vaping contains substances that are harmful to the body, they're harmful to the brain, they're harmful to the lungs, and they will produce significant damage, whether it's now or later. And this is very important that our people understand that.
So when they first came out, I remember e-cigarettes being touted as maybe a way to quit smoking. Is there any truth to that?
No. What we're seeing is that there's a dual effect to this, because people who feel like it's a smoking cessation tool come in using it, but they're also smoking. So you're doing the e-cigarette and you're doing the cigarettes.
Besides that, and I will echo Mickey's word, Mickey has a lot of experience in our smoking cessation programs and Baptist Health. And one of the things that we've seen is people being wrongfully addressing e-cigarettes or vaping in any form as one of the advantages to quit smoking. It's certainly not. She put it exactly the right way. People are actually doing both things. But what is really important and concerning is our kids are exposed to vaping. And when the kids are exposed to vaping, we're seeing a tremendous increase on addiction to nicotine products on those kids, who later on will transfer to smoking other products as well.
Beyond just the smoking and the addiction, these things aren't regulated. So what are some of the ingredients that go into that? Do we know?
We don't. We don't. And that's again, a very important issue, because we don't really know all the secret ingredients inside those vaping products. And there are many brands, there are many products outside. And we are not sure exactly what every one of them contain. We know the combustion, which is, it's very important our people also understand that when we ignite one of these elements, it produces, by using heat, what happens is the liquid inside those elements, whether it's in a pipe or it's in a cigarette form or it's in any form that we use it, what we do it is change that liquid into vapor. And that's what we inhale. Doing that just simply by combustion, so by the ignition of that, it will produce significant substances that might be also harmful to your lungs, and that's important. So,
and one of the other concerns is that we're not sure what they're adding to it.
Right.
What we're trying to do is you're getting more young people to smoke it, so you're putting in candy flavors. Okay, you're putting in other different types of components from the marijuana into it and burning it, and that's one of the concerns.
That is a big concern. Now, a colleague of mine yesterday was saying she walked down the street and walked through a big cloud of vape from somebody else's apparatus. What about secondhand smoke or secondhand fumes from vaping?
It's probably what we will be seeing as we saw with cigarette smoking. Because we don't have a lot of scientific proof right now, what you're putting in it and you blowing it out. If I'm walking along, I'm sitting next to you, I'm inhaling it too, which is a concern.
Yeah, I would say so. We have an image that we're going to take a look at in a moment of an unhealthy lung versus a healthy lung. And Dr. Javier Perez Fernandez, can you tell us what we're going to be looking at here in just a moment?
For our viewers, we'll see in the healthy lung, and on the right side of the screen, what represents the left lung, but just on the right side of the screen is the unhealthy lung, which is typically what we see in an exposed to cigarettes for a long time. And those exposure, that's what we call a black tar lung. And essentially what we're seeing there is obviously, as you can see, the change on color from the pink to the dark side, and representing, it's like a burn area, right? It's like, think about a forest that just has entertained a fire. And those big fires that affect the forest, that's exactly what you're seeing there. It's the remaining of that. So that's what people that smoke for some time might expose themselves to. And that's no different with vaping. We're seeing that.
Right.
It's very similar damage. And there's a lot of chemical reactions. There's a lot of exposure to high temperatures. There's all of those things happening there.
When someone has damage to their lungs and comes to see a physician, what kind of symptoms are they presenting with?
Well, sometimes they see me, but sometimes they see Mickey. And sometimes Mickey calls me. So
Tag team. It
so
works well.
I think that Mickey can tell you exactly what they tell her. I mean, and when they come by to me and their patients are more scared, and sometimes people don't want to say everything they feel. So they talk to Mickey actually, and they probably sincere to you more, right? What did they say to you?
What did they say?
I've been short of breath. I can't exercise the way I used to. I'm coughing more. Okay, because as you know, they're inhalants and they irritate the lung. So the lung has a beautiful way of cleansing itself by forcing you to cough.
That's what that's all about. Coughing is trying to get rid of those poisons that we're breathing in.
And those are symptoms that we look for and we hear, but that shortness of breath and the fact that it's gradually it happening more often than not. So.
When we do talk about lung damage, I hear a term COPD. Can you define what that is? And are you seeing more young adults with COPD that is related to vaping?
I think because we're so early in the game with it, and the concern is that they are having the COPD type of symptoms.
And what does that stand for, COPD?
Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Okay, so it's a disease. What are the symptoms? This is what you were just talking about.
Shortness of breath. We have some tests that you can take to help us to determine the obstruction that is caused. And normally with COPD, we used to identify it in the adult world in, I think, 50 years and above. But now, just to see that you have those type of mimics along with the 19 to 20-year-old young adults is alarming, very alarming for us.
Right. It is very, and I totally echo Mickey's words on this. I think it's very important people to realize that the damage that smoking produces on you is typically not seen right away.
Wow.
It's what we call a medium-term or long-term damage.
Okay.
So what happened is people start smoking, or in this case, start vaping. And it is very important to realize that for many years in the past, smoking was considered cool.
Yes.
Now, it's the same way that vaping is now considered cool. So we used to see actors and actresses on the movies portraying and portraying the smoking as one of the nice options, right? And I think now is what we're seeing the same thing with vaping, and they're making us appear that vaping is so cool and it gives you different flavors, but the damage is not going to happen to those kids and those teenagers as of now. It's going to happen in 15, 20 years, and then it's late to make changes. Now, I also have to make a voice here to remind people that although the damage on the lungs might not be totally reversed, once you quit smoking, or you quit vaping in this case, there's significant help and there's significant improvement on your function. So we got to stay away from saying, well, the damage is done, it doesn't really matter for me to quit now. Absolutely not. There's always advantage, and we see that every day. Okay?
That's the only good news part of this, right?
The fact that they're young.
Right.
And if we exercise, if we, take our medications the way we need to, and it depends on how long the doctor feels like you need to take that, makes a difference as to what your recuperation time is.
Let's talk about the marketing, like you were saying, Doctor. There's flavors and colors. Makes it fairly obvious that they are marketing these to young people, maybe even teenagers. Am I right about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're seeing that, and that's one of the major concerns that we have. When we need actual executive protection on that. We need laws to regulate. We need regulations. And we need a free environments for vaping. So our campus, as an example, Baptist Health South Florida is a totally tobacco-free campus. That means that we have no areas for smokers.
Great.
And we decided that years ago. And again, I have to congratulate, in this case, Mickey, who's been a key element on this participation for the system. And she's always been involved in that. But people like her has been very proactive on making our environment healthy and even healthier now. So one of the things that we need is companies and institutions to be aware that vaping is not cool. Vaping needs to be aware, because vaping can not only damage you if you do it, but also can damage the people around you, as she expressed before. So it is very important. Yes, they make it cool. They make it cool appearance. They make it on forms and devices that are very similar to electronic games and even consoles, right? And very small things, and that only adds to the fact that, why are you doing that?
Right. Yeah, they're definitely going for the young people. And Mickey, you had already sent us some statistics on the number of kids who think that vaping is cool. So we're going to take a look at those. And what are your thoughts? What can you point out about this?
Well, you can see from the year 2014, we were at, especially just in Miami-Dade alone, we were at 19.8%. And in 2018, we were at 22 almost percent. So it's continuing to rise. But overall, in the state of Florida, we started in 2014 at 16% or so, and now we're also at 21%. So it continues to grow, and we're in 2019,
and that's
those
an
numbers
alarming
are continue
trend.
to go
It really
up.
is.
Yeah.
For parents out there who may not be familiar with vaping and what the apparatuses look like, how can you tell if your teenager might be doing it? What signs should you look for?
Well, it's very difficult to really point out a particular sign or element, because, see, nicotine, though being a drug and being a very addictive drug, so let's just point that out. I think that people need to understand that nicotine is, by the classification of the addiction drugs, right, is one of the most addictive drugs on the market. So, and this is very important. Now, one thing that we need to understand is the only way is to control what your kids spend the money on. What do they have as far as instruments or not? And again, be careful to look into things that can look even as a memory card or one of those USB cards, because those are devices that can have vaping properties. So you need to actually ask and be attentive to what your kids are doing. That's it. That's the only thing to prevent this.
And I think have the conversation with them.
Right.
Ask the questions. Most kids will be honest with you.
Yeah.
And they will tell you, but you need to have that discussion and conversation with them.
What about when they visit the physician, when teenagers visit a physician, what can physicians do to bring the message to them?
Well, it is actually a big responsibility that healthcare providers, not just physicians, because sometimes people like respiratory therapists are involved in programs like pulmonary rehabilitation or physical therapy programs, and they need to make people aware that smoking in all forms, and that includes vaping and not vaping, is a damaging habit.
Right.
And it will produce some damage on you, no matter what damage it is. Some people have cancer, some people develop COPD, some people develop stroke or increase the risk of heart problems. All those things are included among the things that smoking produces on you. Now, one important aspect on this is what physicians sometimes wrongfully attempt to make people quit smoking by using vaping products. And I think it needs to be taken as a total misconception. There's been no studies or very anecdotal studies that have shown success on doing that.
Okay.
Most studies actually have shown that there is no benefit to use vaping products to quit smoking. And that's what we know. That's our scientific knowledge as it is right now. So this is very strong message that we need to send to the audience. Again, vaping is not cool, it's not useful, and it's not good for you.
Not at all. There's a lot of talk, you were talking about institutions banning it. There are some government agencies that are talking about banning it. In fact, New York already has, and California is working on it. Do you think that's something we might see in the state of Florida?
If the trend continues to go in the direction it's going now, I'm sure. The FDA is really involved now, and they're coming out strong with the warning signs as it relates to vaping, and especially as it relates to the young adults.
The young adults
the
and
adolescents.
being sold those, you know, over the counter.
Yes.
You had mentioned, you know, beyond the dangers of the poison that's in the material, the dangers of exploding devices in people's mouth.
The heating element.
The heating element.
That's in there.
Have you seen anything like that?
Yes, we have.
Really?
We've seen where it explodes in the mouth and these patients burn. You know, it burns the lung, it burns the face. They end up on mechanical ventilators, and it's that challenge of trying to get them off and just see the damage related to it after the fact.
That is a scary thought.
Yes.
Mickey, if someone is diagnosed with a lung condition, can you tell us a few of the services that are offered at South Miami Hospital to help them?
Right. Working with a pulmonologist, I would suggest is a number one thing.
Okay.
Okay, so we can determine how much damage we're dealing with. Like we said, we have diagnostic tests that will allow for us to do that. We have smoking cessation programs. One of the things that we have done at Baptist Health is through the respiratory therapy and nursing departments, we ask the question of patients that have said that they are smokers, whether it be e-cigarettes or regular cigarettes, and messages come to us, and we go out and we educate the patient. We also provide a service for smoking cessation, and we provide it in English and also in Spanish.
Great.
And it's at just about all of the Baptist Health facilities.
Terrific.
We work with it, and we also offer the nicotine replacement therapy that is approved through the FDA.
And Carol, and again, adding some more to make this statement, I think this is something that we, parents and the community, can also continue at home. A simple question to our kids, simple question to our loved ones, whether even they're adults, can help them to make them realize to quit, because that's what we've proven. So we've proven that just simply by questioning people, do you smoke? Do you use vaping products? Just by that, we actually interfere on the progression of the usage of those products. So as simple as it is, and as simple as it looks like it is, I think it's very important for you to engage into this conversation with your kids, and Mickey mentioned that before. And I think that's a very important message as well.
For sure. I think one of the things is, especially with kids, it's like, well, prove it. You know, what evidence do you have against it? And that's tough for this, isn't it? Because it hasn't been around hundreds of years, like tobacco.
Right. I think it helps a lot to mention what products come out from the vaping itself. So when you think about the number of chemical substances that's contained on a vaping product, it's an amazing amount of venoms. And I think it helps when you go to websites like Florida Tobacco Free, so tobaccoflorida.com, you can find different elements and tools that help you to demonstrate to your loved ones, to your friends, to your kids, that what things are contained on that vaping.
Right.
We're looking at chemical substances that are also contained as rodent venoms and toxins to kill bugs and things that you don't even want it to touch close to you, right? And you're looking at that. Another important message to them is that because there's two things that, and I think this is a right moment to maybe discuss this, is the fact that sometimes some of these products come in with this label of low nicotine or free of nicotine. Are they harmful? And oh, well, there's no nicotine in this. It should not be a problem for me to use it. And it's on the contrary.
Right.
Low nicotine products are well known to induce two things. Induce an increase in the amount of products that you use during the daytime, because you still need the same amount of nicotine. So because they are low nicotine, what you do is you're inhaling more and more and more. Or you even buy more and you do it more times. And that's well proven. And second,
tricky.
Even if they're nicotine free, just simply vaping it. Just think about yourself getting close to the exhaust of a car. You're getting close to it and you're spending the entire afternoon while the car is there 2 meters away from you with your exhaust just inhaling everything that's coming from there. It wouldn't be healthy, right? It can't be healthy.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So, and I think the analogy for us to understand this, and again, I don't want to take too much time on saying this, but this is again a very strong message is vaping then better than smoking? Because I think that's
You hear
a
people
lot
say
of our
that.
exactly.
You do.
So well, at least I don't smoke. I'm vaping. I say, well, okay, is it better for you to jump out of a 60th floor or a 40th floor?
Good analogy.
I'm not sure exactly there is a right answer to that, right? Okay, so I think that's what we stand here.
Yeah, it's bad no matter how you do it.
And a lot of times what we found with children, with the teenagers, is that they start vaping, but it's just leading into cigarettes.
So it's not the opposite way. People were saying that, oh, hey, maybe they won't smoke, they'll vape. That is crazy.
Yeah.
What other things should people be aware of in relation to vaping? What hot button topics?
Well, I think again, just so much reiterating the same factors that we discussed here today. Again, how bad these products are, and how really are not helpful to any one of those misconceptions that we're saying, oh, they're going to help me to quit. Absolutely not. They are less harmful than cigarettes. Absolutely not. Or at least nothing appreciable that you can discuss. And be careful with also monetary issues. We're looking at financial issues, and those products can be expensive. And again, one of the ways to control is how your kids spend their money. What are your kids doing with their money? And so that way you can also look into, are they buying a product?
Right.
Engage the discussion with them. Don't make this something that they need to hide, but at the same time, make them aware of the importance to be transparent on this, and also how bad this could be for them in the future.
What about you, Mickey? Do you have any last thoughts on the subject? We're coming to the end of our time today.
Right. I think when I looked at the statistics related from the Poison Control Center, where we had people calling in and they had like 1 per month, it's up to almost 300 a month now.
That is crazy. That's the Poison Control Center getting And is that from the liquids that form, or just any?
Just
anything?
Because they're concerned. The answers are not out there.
Yeah.
They're not sure.
Right.
I'm doing it, but do I really have the facts?
And that is the key here. I don't think people have the facts, but
That's it.
hopefully this session has helped with two experts who know the facts answering our questions. I'd like to thank you both very much for being here. We did a lot of great information, and thanks very much. So for our viewers, I want to encourage you to follow us on our social media channels. You can see them on the screen there. Get our handles for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Through all those sources, you can find good health information and also find out about Baptist health events that are coming up. Thanks for tuning in today. Until next time, all of us at Baptist Health South Florida wish you a very wonderful day. Goodbye.
Bye.